what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
The summer season of vacation is blazing away like the mercury up the thermometer in the Carolinas. But while air temperatures are hovering around the triple digits, the air inside my automobile is nice and cool. That's why I don't mind jumping in the car for a few hours, taking a drive, especially if I know a stop at a new or favorite barbecue restaurant is at the end of that long white line. So in this episode, we're talking about 3 destinations for my second barbecue road trip this summer. Last time, we went to Columbia and Charleston, South Carolina, with a side quest to a hidden spot near where I live in the Hickory Metro. For this journey, we're heading back into the Deep South with another South Carolina stop in Anderson and 2 stops at barbecue joints near the place where I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. Keep listening for all the details about Fork Grove Barbecue in Sadlers Creek, South Carolina. We're also talking about Carlile's Barbecue and Rusty's Barbecue in the Birmingham region. We'll get to all the details on those in just a moment. First, a reminder, you can find more barbecue reviews and pitmaster interviews at our website, lowslowbbqshow.com. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, The Lowdown. That's where you'll get links to the latest barbecue news all around the Carolinas. This week, The Lowdown shared the details on Elliot Moss's latest barbecue plans. He's opening up a new joint in Florence, South Carolina, his hometown. We had the news for you. We also revealed the top 10 U.S. states for barbecue. Spoiler alert, the Carolinas finished second and third. Texas, way down the list at number 4. Subscribe to the Lowdown newsletter and get a recipe every week like the one we shared for our Boston butt rub. Just visit lowslowbbqshow.com, click on the link that says subscribe, and you'll get it to the newsletter. You'll get the latest barbecue news hot off the press every Tuesday morning. Finally, before we start talking about Fork Grove Barbecue and all the cool stuff Dylan Cook and his team are doing near the South Carolina-Georgia border, I want to remind you the Low and Slow Barbecue Show is on Instagram. That's where you can see photos and videos from all the stops on the barbecue road trip. We also link all our content into the Instagram story as soon as it's live. Just follow us at Low and Slow Barbecue Show. That's all spelled out, all one word, to get the photos, the promos, and the behind-the-scenes stories of barbecue across the Carolinas and beyond. Now let's get to Fork Grove. Fork Grove Barbecue, you can find them on the World Wide Web at forkgrovebbq.com. They're also on Instagram as well. If you're looking for that physical location, you want to take I-85 south out of Carolina, headed into South Carolina, clear all that stuff from Greenville and Spartanburg. You'll get down to Anderson. You take exit 14 down South Carolina 187, take it out 187, about 7 miles, and you'll get out into the country. And quite literally, once you get there, you'll discover that Fork Grove is a feast by the field. It just so happens to be the motto of Euphoria in Greenville. That's where Fork Grove Barbecue is a regular participant in that big festival, Feast by the Field, just like Fork Grove Barbecue is a feast by the field. So I arrived on the scene. It started raining just as soon as I got there. Didn't have a lot of time to spend looking around outside, so got right on in. Wasn't much of a line. I arrived on Thursday, and you can see the big menu on the wall, and they've got laminated menus for you to look at in the line, but not much of a line for me. So I felt like I was kind of put on the spot when it's time to order, and you do that. You want to get there at that market counter, and you can order things by the pound. You can also order plates and sandwiches. Personally, I suggest you order one of their plates and then just add all the things you want to it. If you don't do that, let's say you walk up and start naming off all those proteins that you want and the sides. By the time you get to the register, they'll figure out what you got and make it a plate with extras, get you charged the right price, a low price for you as well. And that's exactly what I did. I walked up to the counter and just started shouting out a half pound of brisket, half pound of bacon burn-ins, half pound of pulled pork, cheddar and jalapeno sausage links. I want sides. I want sweet potato crumble and white macaroni and cheese. And they were right there on it. The fella worked out the proteins quickly, served them up perfectly, got me all set up on a tray, and sent me to my booth with a fresh sweet tea. I got in there, and then they've got a pretty large dining room, plenty of places to sit, but it was a busy night on Thursday when I enjoyed off that big menu of protein and sides. My favorite was the brisket. Boy, Dylan has a peppery bark there with meat that's firm but tender and moist. And those burn ends that I ordered, they've got a similar bark flavor that came with a sauce on top of them. That offered an extra kick of Texas. I know that Troy and Dylan and the gang there are experimenting with some of those other burn end flavors, like maybe a strawberry topped sauce. You want to check that out if you get to Fort Grove in the next few weeks. Of the things on my plate, I'd probably say that the pork was the weakest, but it was still good. Maybe a little bit dry. And none of the meats, I'll tell you, they need sauce. They don't need it at all, that is. But the sauce is there, and one of those is a thick tomatoey type sauce. The other is mustardy. I like to try it without sauce and then add some sauce and have my own little sauce experiments there to see which I like the best. And they all went really well with each of the proteins that they've got at Fort Grove. I mentioned the sides. I got the white macaroni and cheese, and that really brought a different and distinct flavor for the cheese. But the sweet potato crunch was hands down among the best that I've ever had. And if I've had a few sweet potato crunches, I'll tell you. And if you're listening in the Hickory Metro, Fort Grove sweet potato crunch is better than what they're serving at JD's and Apple City. I wouldn't say the sweet potato crunch is the only reason you want to head to Sadler's Creek, but I will tell you that it is a good reason, and you definitely want to get that side. But I'll save all the side talk for one of my other stops here on the road tour. For now, I want to tell you that Fort Grove staff was super friendly. I mentioned their help get me the right tray and the right plate worked out with all the stuff added to it. The restaurant itself is really spacious. They got a couple of very large dining halls. It's a beautiful pastoral setting outside. Not a lot of outdoor seating, but in South Carolina, it's not really cool all that often enough to have outdoor seating. You want to be inside there. And they got some really cool Texas paraphernalia on the sides about Texas barbecue. A really cool spot to check out and eat some barbecue. Out back at the facility, I was kind enough to talk to Troy, and he gave me a tour of the smokehouse, and we talked all about the things that Dylan's working on. Dylan, the pit master, of course, we've had him on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, and he's told us about some of the stuff that he's got going on. One thing that he's adding, a cinder block pit, where he started doing whole hog barbecue and whole hog pig pickings on Saturdays. You want to check it out there. Of course, Saturday is also Sausage Snap Saturday, and that's when Troy produces some unique, original sausages. Look for them on Instagram. You'll see Troy snapping those sausages, and you also want to check it out on Saturday. That's when they're doing it. For me, I hit it on Thursday, and as it turns out, and speaking with Troy, he was kind enough to enlighten me that, Wednesday, they smoke the meat. They do all their prep and stuff on Tuesday. You get there Thursday, you got the first crack at all the good stuff that they've got on the menu, all the good things. You won't ever run out of anything. By the time you get to the end of the day, Saturday, I'm sorry, they're not open on Sunday. By the time you get to the end of the day, Saturday, you may start to run out of some of those proteins, even though they've got some extras there with the sausage snap and the whole hog pig pickings that they've got there now. So for me, I hit it on Thursday. You can go there on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. They're open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. each 3 of those days, but that's the only time you'll find them. You may find them at the restaurant on Tuesday and Wednesday working, and try though you might, you probably won't talk them into serving you anything until they open the doors promptly at 11 on Thursdays. So after a stop on I-85 in Anderson, South Carolina, I continued my trip about 260 more miles to the Birmingham Metro, the magic, tragic city in north central Alabama. And that's where I completed my first visit to both Carlile's and Rusty's Barbecue. And now, as a Birmingham native, I've been to plenty of area barbecue joints, from Golden Rule, Lockhamy's, Ollie's, Full Moon, even Green Top out in Dora, to Dreamland and the newer guys like Rodney Scott's Barbecue. But on this trip, I wanted something different. I wanted someplace I haven't been before. And when you need something different, it's always good to have a barbecue guide. You don't want to walk into a place and be surprised with something that's not great. You want to walk in and be pleasantly surprised. And there's a few hosts and guides around the South that you can check into that'll kind of give you the scoop on the best barbecue places to check out. Of course, check us out here at Low and Slow Barbecue Show. We've got a lot of details, interviews with our pit masters, some other sources for information around the region. In North Carolina specifically, check out the Barbecue Bros. That's BROS. They've got rankings, reviews, and maps. They even include the best and worst of around all the major cities in the Carolinas. So Monk and Tommy and all those guys over there at the Barbecue Bros do a great job, and they're really kind of a great guidepost for finding good barbecue around North Carolina. Another one of our friends, the Barbecue Tourist and the Smoke Sheet. They're good resources for barbecue around the nation, especially around the Midwest and the Northeast, where each one of those live. We had Ryan Connor, the Barbecue Tourist, here on our show here just a few weeks ago. You can check him out and find out his stories. Another one I'll share with you is Michael, Cogar. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name and get it wrong, but it's Michael, Cogar on Instagram. He has had a tremendous summer journey of the great barbecue destinations all over the Eastern Seaboard. If you go follow him, you can see his pictures and his details. And he's really focused on spotlighting the barbecue restaurants and their pit masters. He really does a nice job kind of highlighting some of the best stuff along the Eastern Seaboard. One last tip, and this is somebody that I used on my trip to Birmingham in Alabama. You'll want to check out Alabama Barbecue Chase or alabamabarbecuechase.com. He's got the list, like best of the best, places you got to try, Saucy Talk, a travel log. If you're visiting Alabama, you'll want to visit and check out alabamabarbecuechase.com. It's a great resource for barbecue in the heart of Dixie, and it more or less led me to my Birmingham area visits. And that begins with Carlile's Barbecue. It's at carlilesbarbecue.com, Carliles BBQ.com. It's located on 6th Avenue South in Birmingham, between Lakeview and the Forest Park area. Now, Carlile's originally opened in 1945. That means it's been serving Birmingham barbecue fans for nearly 80 years. It was founded by the Carlile brothers, Herman and Warren Carlile, after their service in World War II. The funny thing is, one of those brothers had his name misspelled while he was in the military. They had the Carlisle. The military spelled it Carlile, which was incorrect, but they decided to stick with that and put it up there on their barbecue restaurant. So Carlile Barbecue Brothers was born. They just stuck with that after they opened in 1945. It was inside the family up until the Colott family purchased it in 2007. They decided they wanted to preserve the Carlile barbecue history because it is definitely a Birmingham institution, and it's ranked among the state's best of the best by the Alabama Barbecue Chase. Now, I got to say that may be a little bit of a sentimental ranking. The Alabama Barbecue Chase referenced trips there with his grandfather, so maybe some of that kind of influenced his decision. I will say I talked with my dad, who grew up and spent all of his life in Alabama, and he says that in the late 80s and early 90s, my dad was working at an engineering firm downtown. He says that Carlile's was a regular lunch spot for him and his colleagues. He often got the meat and three plate, but he remembered that the barbecue was having a much more of a traditional Alabama style sauce before all the thick Kansas City sweet stuff started kind of showing up in the mid to late 90s. And he says it's a perfect lunch spot. And while I was there, it was full of blue collar workers alongside professionals. And again, they were all showing up for good food. It's a wait staff type of scenario. You're not going to step up to the counter and order a half pound of anything, but they've got the menu and you can take the plate routes and you can get pretty much close to the same results ordering a meat and two or meat and three or a couple of proteins and some sides to go along with that. After I'd been at Fork Grove Barbecue on Thursday, I arrived at Carlile's, and I'll admit I was still pretty full. So I took it pretty light while I was at Carlile's Barbecue, but I think I did the right thing. I got a barbecue sandwich, pulled pork with a couple of sides, baked beans, and white slaw. And I'll say and admit that white slaw and pork barbecue go together great for me. Red slaw and pork barbecue go together great for me. So if I'm going to have a barbecue sandwich, I want to put some of that slaw on there too. The baked beans were kind of a last second decision, but I'm glad I made it. Man, they were sweet and thick, full of meat. I'd go back just for the baked beans and probably a plate that was just sides or one of those meat and three plates. It really makes a great lunch. Again, if you want to go into a restaurant like that and they've got specials, you probably want to check them out. Let's talk about the pork. It came out covered in a tangy brown sauce. It's kind of the Alabama traditional vinegary, thinnish type stuff that they go ahead and put on there for you. I didn't get a choice. I got it whether I wanted it or not. That keeps the meat moist. It gives it a nice tangy flavor. They've got another sauce that they offer on the table as well as sort of the brown sauce. It's a little bit more sweet, equally as thin, so you can use whatever you want there. Again, my peak and my favorite there at Carlile's was the baked beans, but next time I may go out towards the specials or the daily deals. Carlile's, of course, as a lunch spot in Birmingham, is open 10:30 to 3 Monday through Friday. They're closed both Saturday and Sunday. Why would they be open? Nobody's downtown working, but when they're downtown working, Carlile's is open. You can check them out. Final stop on my tour, Rusty's Barbecue. It's pit smoked barbecue that Jonathan Rusty Tucker is putting out there. As it turns out, Rusty went to culinary school at Johnson & Wales in Charlotte, opened up this restaurant in 2009. You can learn all about it, rustysbarbecue.com. That's Rusty's, B-A-R, the letter B, the letter Q.com. So barbq.com. And so Rusty's is located in Leeds, Alabama. And as it turns out, if you have any familiarity with that area, it is at the same exit as a Beaver, the Buc-ee's Beaver. And that's on I-20, just east of Birmingham. You stop at Buc-ee's if you want to, or if you need to. You'll see the signs for hundreds of miles going in there. But I tell you, don't eat. Get what you need from Buc-ee's. Don't eat. Drive about 3 more miles down U.S. Highway 411 until you hit 78. You'll find Rusty's just down the road a piece there. He's close to the Bass Pro Shops. He's close to Barber Motorsports. And, of course, he's close to the Buc-ee's as well. And Rusty's interior's got all kinds of Alabama sports memorabilia in their large dining room, including some stuff from the Barber Motorsports part and Alabama football and baseball, Auburn football and basketball, as well as the Birmingham Barons are represented there in the memorabilia gear too. So check that out. Pork is pit smoked and it's hand picked, and Rusty leaves it in bigger pieces, and you get plenty of bark on that pork as well. So you get the inside soft, tender, moist meat, as well as the flavor that comes along that bark after the pit smoking. Now I'll tell you that Rusty's was also ranked by the Alabama Barbecue Chase among the state's best of the best. And personally, I hit Rusty's on Saturday, took a couple of friends with me. Here in this scenario, you order at the register off a full menu of options he's got up on the wall. Personally, we got the sampler platter for 2, and I shared that with a local Birmingham friend. Again, large dining room, and they've got outdoor seating as well. It would be a good spot to visit in a cool evening, maybe in the fall. When we were there, it was hot and rainy on a Saturday afternoon, so we ate outside. And speaking of a cool treat there on a hot Saturday, let me just start by saying that Rusty's Barbecue's dessert is the bomb. Coconut cream pie came from Rusty's grandfather. That was his recipe. The banana pudding was Rusty's mother's recipe. And before I even talk about anything else, I got to tell you, that coconut cream pie was probably one of the best coconut pies I've ever had. If you like that kind of thing, check it out. Banana pudding was a close second, but the desserts there at Rusty's were fantastic. Also good, the sides. Yeah, I'm talking about the dessert and the sides before we get to the proteins. But these black-eyed peas that Rusty had were so good, I've just got to promote them. They were the best I've had in a really long time. Had a nice touch of black pepper and a thick, savory broth. If you like black-eyed peas, check Rusty's out. Man, they were really good. I will go back and eat that by the gallon. I could probably eat my weight in black-eyed peas from Rusty's. Rusty's also is kind of unique in that they've got several sauces out there on the table. One of those is the house sauce, and it's a variation on Rusty's grandfather's recipe. It's thin, tomatoey, vinegary with a little bit of a twang, and it's kind of between the thin, watery stuff you might get at Ollie's in Birmingham and some of that thicker sauce that you get at Golden Rule. It's designed to be thin. They've also got a sweet barbecue sauce, a spicy barbecue sauce, and, of course, Alabama white sauce, which I got to mention that when I was growing up in Birmingham, there weren't really a lot of places that were promoting the Alabama white sauce. But since Big Bob Gibson's really kind of caught national acclaim and a reputation, you're finding it more and more around the entire state. And Rusty's is one of those places. So I know I talked all about the sides and I talked all about the dessert, but I don't want to take anything away from the meat there that they had at Rusty's. It's really good, especially the chicken. Had a great smoke flavor on it. The brisket was also really good, had a good flavor on the bark. It was moist and tender. We got ribs, we got turkey. We talked about the pulled pork. All of it was good without the sauce. But again, it's nice to add some of those sauces and have some experiments in what the good stuff they've got between the white sauce, which is really good on the turkey and the chicken, or the spicy sauce, which was good on the brisket, or the sweet sauce, which is good on the ribs, of course. And those ribs, by the way, some people talk about them falling off the bone, and these weren't necessarily falling off the bone, but they were pretty darn close. They weren't competition where they want you to be firm and you still got a bite and still got meat on the bone. They weren't quite that firm, but they were super tender, very well smoked, and fall right off the bone without being mushy, really. Rusty's Barbecue is open 10:30 to 8:30 every day, but they are closed on Sunday, so check them out Monday through Saturday, whether you want them for lunch or dinner. Rusty's is a great location. Definitely recommend it if you're east of Birmingham there on I-20. One thing I learned on this barbecue road trip I want to talk about: order a little bit of everything if you can. That really gives you a better chance of finding the best bites. Plus, you get a takeout box and you can enjoy the leftovers for the next day's breakfast or the next day's lunch. After the 3 stops I had, my host had quite a bit of leftovers in their refrigerators that we enjoyed nibbling on throughout the stay there in Birmingham. If you're so full from one stop like I was Thursday at Fort Grove when I walked into Carlile's for lunch Friday, I know this seems like stating the obvious, but you can share with friends. It's cost effective and you get to sample everything. Or, get something smaller like I did, a sandwich, a side plate, maybe check out the special or the daily meat and 3 offering. Of course, if it's a place, like I said, if it's a place known for lunch, get that daily special or meat and 3 and you're bound to do okay. If all of Birmingham's going there for lunch, you're probably safe with anything you order as well. So with that said, safe travels on the barbecue road. If you hit a favorite barbecue spot out there on the road, especially around the Carolinas, please share it with us. You can email at lowandslowbarbecueshow@gmail.com. Email your suggestions, your reviews, and your dishes. Again, lowandslowbarbecueshow@gmail.com. You've been listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show on the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. Be sure to visit us online at lowslowbbqshow.com. That's where you'll find the blog. You can hear other podcast episodes, including our barbecue road trip through South Carolina with stops in Columbia and Charleston. That was Palmyra and City Limits. And if you like what you hear on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, please be sure to give us that 5-star rating on your favorite podcast network. That helps a lot of other people find our podcast. It's really helped us grow traffic over the summer. Remember, visit lowslowbbqshow.com and subscribe to the Lowdown newsletter. We'll send you the latest podcasts, blogs, recipes, barbecue events, and more, all directly to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. Thanks to the barbecue restaurants that hosted me, Fort Grove Barbecue, Carlile's Barbecue, and Rusty's Barbecue. Really enjoy visiting your places of business. Thanks as well to our producer, Andrew Moose, and the whole team at the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. They're folks behind the scenes that make our podcast happen. Most especially, thank you for listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Remember, for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, make it low and slow.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.